אנו לא משתפים אז רבים כמו ילדים ודוגרי אין לי ראש למלחמות רוצה להיזרק איתך מתחת לשמיכות צמוד צמוד כפיות רק אתמול סיכמנו שהכל שטויות 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 כבר כמה ימים את נראית לי אחרת שלום שלום כזה אתה לא רגיל לזה ונראה לי שאני לא הופכת שלמה עם זה ותכלס כל זה תקוע הוכיחתי שבוע ואם לא מספיק לך אז כתבתי שיר על זה כי דוגרי אין לי ראש למלחמות רוצה להיזרק איתך מתחת לשמיכות צמוד צמוד כפיות רק אתמול סיכמנו שהכל שטויות 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 רוצה להיזרק איתך מתחת לשמיכות צמוד צמוד כפיות רק אתמול דיברנו והכל שטויות 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 רוצה להיזרק איתך מתחת לשמיכות צמוד צמוד כפיות רק אתמול דיברנו והכל שטויות 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 יצא לי קצת לחשוב, אבל התחיל לכאוב אם גם את משתכרת כדי לשכוח אותי זוכרת איך עברו כמעט שנתיים שהיו שרתי לך אבל אותך זה לא יחזיר אליי די, הבנתי שזה כבר נגמר ביי ביי סגרנו וזה לא עבר טוב זורמת לי בתוך הדם אני שחררתי אותך אבל אם העולם ייגמר את תבואי אליי את תבואי אליי אם הבדידות תישאר תחזרי אולי תחזרי אליי איך העולם מתהפך ואוהבת הפך לדלך לא ספרת אותי כשהמשכת ממני סגרתי את הלב בפנים אני אפס שלא חיים כשהלכת לי לקחת אותי ממני למדתי איך לחשוב עלייך בלי לכאוב אין תרופה לזמן שלימד אותי אמרת שבקרוב יהיה לנו אותו כל אחד לבד אותך כלום לא יחזיר אליי די הבנתי שזה כבר נגמר ביי ביי סגרנו וזה לא עבר את עוד זורמת לי בתוך הדם אני שחררתי אותה אבל אם העולם ייגמר את תבואי אליי את תבואי אליי אם הבדידות תישאר תחזרי אולי תחזרי אליי איך העולם מתהפך ואוהבת הפך לתלך לא ספרת אותי כשהמשכת ממני סגרתי את הלב בפנים אני אפס שלא חיים כשהלכת לי לקחת אותי ממני
Good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us this evening for what promises to be a very moving, important, and meaningful evening. As we still come to terms with the incredible, and horrendous scenes that we saw on October 7th, with over 1,400 of our brothers and sisters murdered, 213 people still kept hostage, thousands injured, and dozens still unaccounted for. It really is timely for us to be coming together yet again to try and make some sense and understand what's been happening. A couple of housekeeping issues for tonight. Please, if you are asking any questions, please put it in the Q&A. We'll get to the questions in the Q&A a little bit later, and there'll be plenty of time for that. The chat forum is open, but again, I remind people, please be respectful at all times. If there's anything disrespectful, rude, or provocative in the chat, we will shut it down. But if you want to send messages of love and support, particularly for our guest later, Michal, which we'll pass on to her, please feel free to do so. And if you can, please also ensure that you are very respectful to each other if you're chatting together. So without any further ado, it's my pleasure to welcome Jeremy Leibler, who is the president of the Zionist Federation of Australia, a good friend and partner of our organization. And Jeremy, I want to just thank you for the leadership that you and your team have shown, the direction you've given the community. And I strongly encourage anybody who's not following the ZFA on social media and the like to do so. They're putting out wonderful information, connecting the community as well. And thank you, Jeremy, for everything that you're doing. And really, on behalf of all of us, we deeply appreciate it. So over to you, Jeremy, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Yair, and good evening, everyone. I think that it's fair to say that since 7th of October, our collective world has changed. I know that I found it extremely difficult managing the personal mourning for our people, our friends, our family, with my own communal responsibilities. It's very difficult. I found it enormously difficult to comprehend that the Jewish people are not even given the luxury of 48 hours to mourn our loss, because we need to convince the world that basic moral decency requires them to condemn a genocidal terrorist organization that simply wants to murder Jews. I found it difficult to comprehend that we have been forced to provide photographic and video evidence of our most traumatic moments since the Holocaust, because the world is denying that these things occurred before we've even buried our dead. I found it difficult to have to explain to the many well-meaning non-Jewish colleagues, clients, and friends why there is nothing complicated about what happened on the 7th of October. But there are not two sides to this story. But the truth is, and I say this with a sense of irony because I've spent every living, breathing moment of the past 2 weeks thinking and talking about these matters. But the truth is that all of this stuff is irrelevant. It's a distraction. What really matters, what has always mattered, is how we, as the Jewish people and the state of Israel, respond to these attacks. What matters is how we support our fellow Jews from here in the diaspora. How we do everything in our power to show our solidarity with our family and our friends in Israel, and do what we can to help them cope with the tragedy that they have endured and rebuild their lives and the state of Israel. And it matters how we as a Jewish community show leadership. And the best way to lead is to lead from the front. And I witnessed this over the last week when Stephen Lowy got on a plane at the first available opportunity to be in Israel, and on behalf of all of us, sent a clear message to the people of Israel that the Australian Jewish community, indeed all of diaspora Jewry, stand with the people of Israel. I didn't need then to hear a detailed account of what Stephen had seen in Israel. We'll hear that tonight. But when we spoke from Israel, I could hear it in his voice. And tonight we will see it in his expression, in the expression on his face, in the video we're about to watch, and when he speaks to us. Stephen, thank you for your leadership and for being our shaliach to the people of Israel. I know so many of us wanted to physically be on the ground, and it made a huge difference having you there. So before Stephen shares his experiences and takes some questions, we're going to film a short video on KH's activities and his experiences on the ground so far. Thank you.
We've been here just over 24 hours. It is without doubt one of the most emotional days of my life. This morning we met a family that had lost 2 boys.
I'm standing in front of the home of Tali and Shmuel. They buried their sons Noam and Ishai. They went down to Gaza together. They weren't called, but they just thought they could help. They were both killed, found 20 meters apart. It's hard to juxtapose the beauty of where we are with the sadness, but they gave us strength, and I hope we were able to give them some as well.
We then went to Shvayim, where we met with Ofer, the father of Aviv, who sadly, but most importantly bravely, died in the early hours of the fighting. Ofer is well known to the Jewish Agency, well known to Keren Hayesod. It was so unbelievably sad to see a colleague who has worked with victims of terror over many, many years, and now sadly he's a victim of terror. In the front of the hotel is a chart of which time and where and who the burial ceremonies are sadly for.
To look at the numbers, to see the names, to see the pain is terrible, but there's also a source of strength here that is tremendously moving.
Today we met with new Olim from Ethiopia. These Olim came just a couple of months ago to Israel. They were staying in absorption centers in Ashkelon and Ibim. This is very close to the border with Gaza. They were not safe there. We had to take immediate action. Therefore, the Jewish Agency, with the support of Keren Hayesod, evacuated the new Olim to Netanya, to a safe place where they are protected.
We then had the most harrowing experience of visiting a Shiva house with not 1, not 2, but 3 young boys. All those boys were great friends. This is without doubt the hardest moment. There's no preparation in life to deal with what you're dealing with. My grandfather dying in Auschwitz because he's a Jew, but we're all still going through this pain today. 79 years. I think all we can say is, your pain is our pain and your hurt is our hurt. It's an honor to be here with you. If it's at least comforting, all of the Jewish people are with you. We went to the funeral of Ophir Lipstein, the mayor of one of the municipalities in the south. Thousands of people were weeping. It was the greatest honor to be there, to see Israel coming together, burying its dead, praying for its people to come home, and praying for the health of those who were badly injured.
This morning, very early in Jerusalem, our group had a chance to meet with President Isaac Herzog and the First Lady Michal, and we had a chance to express our solidarity and our unity, and it was very emotional and it was very significant for us.
We came here on a solidarity mission so we can appreciate and share the issues that Israelis are going through.
The solidarity that we get from our brothers and sisters around the world is huge. Everybody knows somebody.
Your leadership is so much appreciated for both of you, and we will be with you every step of the way.
Thank you. Bless you all.
We visited Barzilai Samson Hospital in Ashkelon, and the director of the hospital, Professor Chezi Levi, explained to us about the last few days, and especially on October 7th, when they received 80 ambulances in the first hour and a half, and over 300 wounded in their emergency room.
You changed the game. You and all the leadership of Keren HaYesod, and you should be proud for a lot of life that was saved by your generous donation.
So on behalf of Keren HaYesod, thank you so much. Thank you.
We continued to the regional council, where I am now, of Chof Ashkelon, and we met with mayors, heads of municipalities of the areas all around the south.
I'm now, after 40 days, that I evacuate 27,000 people outside from the town. I am a mayor without people. The people need help.
We don't know how can you help us right now. Even if we don't know it right now, we will know it soon. We need a moment.
The money that you gave us in the beginning help us to stop. Now is the time to go and make emergency campaign to raise the future of this area.
And we trust you to be with us then. Toda.
Our responsibility is to take what you've told us to the diaspora. So we're here with you now at the start, and we will be with you every step of the way, and we are all together.
The culmination of the day was when we went down to a kibbutz and we visited soldiers. We were just 2 kilometers from the Gaza border, and it was so important for us to show those soldiers that we, the Jewish communities from all around the world, stand with them shoulder to shoulder. I'm standing here with the kotel behind me, and we just completed senior solidarity mission of the leadership of Keren HaYesod. And one of the main reasons was for our leaders to be able to convey to all of you exactly what is going on in Israel, and so that all of you and all of your campaigns around the world can really feel in your hearts how personal this is. We desperately need to help Israel at this moment.
Our job in the diaspora is to continue to help Israel more than we have ever helped Israel.
In these days, when the personal and the professional are in the mix, for me, as a mother for 2 soldiers who are now fighting in the south, working in Keren HaYesod and seeing the immediate response of the leadership, it is a privilege.
Please work as hard as you can so that we, Keren HaYesod, when we say for the people of Israel, we can really show that we are all for the people of Israel. Toda Rabah.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks, Jeremy, for being with us in Yair. And I will introduce Michal in a few minutes. First of all, Jeremy, let me thank you for the incredible work that you are doing. The ZFA, all of us, I think, are working probably 24/7 for Israel right now, and really not focused on anything else. You, of course, I'm aware of the Board of Deputies, ECAJ, AJAC, and the other advocacy groups are working around the clock right now. We see this, or it's said to us, is that Israel is at war. I don't believe that. I think that all the Jewish people are at war right now. I think this is a war that Jews in Israel and Jews in the diaspora need to fight together. It's a historic moment. None of us have seen this in our lifetimes, other than maybe our elderly parents. Certainly not our generation and not our children's generation. And there's no doubt this has rocked us to the core. And I really want to thank those in Australia that are working around the clock, doing what they're doing. I'm fully aware that that's happening in all communities around the world. We witnessed a pogrom. There's no question about it. This is stuff that we've heard of from grandparents and great-grandparents from Europe, but we certainly witnessed it on October on the 7th. And clearly the barbaric acts that were inflicted on our people, none of us can get those out of our minds right now. I chose to go to Israel. I was actually in New York at the time, and spoke with a few of the leadership of Keren Hayesod from Canada, from Brazil, from Uruguay, and we decided to go, and we went from one day to the next. It was the most unbelievable experience. Why did we go? We went, obviously, to show solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Israel. We went to learn, and I think most importantly, we went to communicate what we saw to the diaspora, because everybody in the diaspora is hurting, and everybody wants to help as much as possible. And we went for the purposes of communicating as best as we could of what we saw on the ground. We also went to show comfort to those in Israel that they're not alone. All of us are together with our brothers and sisters, united more than we've ever been before. Any divisions in our communities, religious grounds, political grounds, they've all gone. We are one people, completely united to win and survive. And I don't say survive lightly, because this is an existential moment for Israel, but also for the Jewish people around the world. I've been asked a lot in the last few days since I've been home about what did we experience, and I felt it important to try and share as best as possible with you, but on scale. Personally, I find it very difficult. As you saw, there was lots of emotion in the video. That's actually the second video. There was a first video that we did on the first night, and I think many of you saw that, and you've just seen for the first time a full, complete video of the 2-day mission. It was an incredible mission. In just a matter of 2 days, we landed and immediately had a briefing from a very senior military expert. We had a foreign policy briefing from a very senior foreign policy expert within the government. We went to 4 Shiva homes, a massive funeral. We visited 2 hotels, which you saw in the video, where there are evacuees from the south and the north. In fact, there's more than 100,000 Israeli either evacuees or maybe even refugees, however you want to say that, right now in Israel. And you heard that on the video as well. We were warmly embraced by President Herzog within only 1 or 2 days' notice. In fact, the day before, he met with President Biden, and the immediate visit after we left was with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Rishi Sunak. And it shows you how important the visit of the diaspora was to the President, that he shifted his schedule together with the First Lady, Michal, to share his views with us and share his appreciation and unity between the Jews of the diaspora and the Jews in Israel. The same day, we went down to Barzilai Hospital in Eshkol, which you saw in the video, and then we had a further visit to municipalities. We met with 5 heads of southern municipalities. One of them was Michal, you saw in the video. I'm going to introduce her in a moment. And then we went further south to a kibbutz to meet with soldiers, and you saw at that moment there was a rocket attack at that time. In fact, the Iron Dome took down the rockets before the siren even went off. That's how close we were to the border. And finally, we met with really the Keren Hayesod team, which I am incredibly proud of. The Keren Hayesod team is working also around the clock with the team from the Jewish Agency and the Jewish Federations of North America, but they're on the ground. It's their children that are in the army, and even some of our team, and I'll share that with you in a moment. And I wanted to take time together with Sam Grunberg, the chairman of Keren Hayesod, to meet with Edna and her team, so they could share their personal stories with us, because they're all doing an incredible job for Keren Hayesod in the face of enormous personal tragedy and sadness. And of course, at the end, I think it was very fitting that we were able to pray at the Kotel. So it was a packed few days, and I'll try and delve a little deeper into what we experienced, and then introduce Michal and then open it for as many questions as possible. There's only so much you can share in a video of 5 or 7 minutes for 2 days of such intense activity and intense emotion, but we tried to do that, and hopefully we were able to convey that message to you. But now I'd like to delve a little deeper with you within time constraints that it allows, and then allow plenty of time for questions. The first impression, well, I'll summarize just the overall impressions quickly, is that Israel is in immense pain, just immense pain, immeasurable pain. There's also incredible uncertainty right now, because we've witnessed the most horrific pogroms on October the 7th. Israel has been burying its dead. Not everybody's buried. Not all the dead are even, sadly, not even identified as we sit here today. There are families that still haven't buried their family members. There's, of course, more than 200 hostages still in Gaza, and many thousands still injured. And as I said, more than 100,000 displaced Jews within Israel right now. So the uncertainty is just incredible. And of course, we all await the next steps of the war, whether that's in Gaza, or God forbid, in the northern front with Hezbollah. Of course, there's American warships sitting off the coast of Israel in case that occurs with Iran. And then there are internal issues within the West Bank, and of course Israeli Arabs within Israel itself. And so there's so much uncertainty right now. It's really a powder keg, and you can see it on everybody's faces. But what I do want to share with you is that we saw, in the face of everything I've just described, incredible strength, incredible unity, and incredible pride from within Israel. All of the political divisiveness is gone. I am certain it will come back after this settles down, at whatever point that it's settled down. But at the moment, the country is very strong. It is very angry, though. There is no question about it. But it is very united. There is clearly a deep, deep concern and mistrust in government. I am not making a political statement when I say that, but there are enormous parts of the country that feel deeply let down by the government, not only due to the attacks occurring, but in the last few weeks since it has occurred, within the support that the government has provided. And that's actually where organizations like the Jewish Agency, in partnership with Karen Hayesod and the Jewish Federation of North America and other NGOs, come in, because there's immediate assistance now being provided to those who desperately need it immediately, and providing services that the government is either not capable of doing at the moment, or just not on their agenda, because there are clearly other issues there right now. And so that's a serious issue. When it comes to the economy, the economy is effectively shut down right now. If any of you have been to Israel on Yom Kippur, it feels like Yom Kippur. Hardly anybody on the roads, hardly anybody on the streets. The hotel that I stayed in was effectively less than 10% busy. There was 0 people in the lobby except me and my colleagues from the leadership of Karen Hayesod. So there's clearly, I think, 350 or 400,000 odd reservists called up. That has a massive impact on the economy. And as what I saw physically, it actually looks like the economy is shut, except for essential services like supermarkets, hospitals, etc. You see no business activity taking place, or hardly anybody on the streets. As I said, I went to, and I think that will have that's something that will not go away quickly. And of course, there's immediate economic issues right now, but clearly they'll be even greater. All of the people that have been displaced, you will hear from Michal later on. The south, effectively, many kibbutzim, moshavim need to be rebuilt. and people need to be relocated, and that will come at a massive cost. And this is where the partnership between the government of Israel and the Jews in the diaspora, the United States, and Keren HaYesod represents the rest of the world, is critical. The first shiva we went to was actually from a lone soldier, and I think most of you who are aware of Keren HaYesod, it's a very important focus of Keren HaYesod and Jewish Agency looking after lone soldiers. And sadly, on the first night we met parents from London of a 20-year-old beautiful boy, Nathaniel Zichron Lavracha, and he died. He died on the first day. You saw on the video that we sadly went to the Shiva home of two beautiful boys, Noam and Ishai, the Slutsky family, and no, this is not the video. This is not. Can we take the photos off, please? I'll come back to that in a minute. You saw my colleague and board member from Canada, Bruce Leibler, talk about his sense in the video. But what you didn't see, sadly, and it's really hard even to say this, is that Ishai has a young wife and a 2-month-old baby girl, and we saw them all grieving there at the Shiva home. And Noam is a twin brother, and his twin brother was sitting with us, and he actually went. He immediately. These are religious people, but he immediately went down in the face of fire and all the horrible activity there. And he sadly saw his two brothers dead on the ground, 20 meters apart from each other. And he saw many terrorists killed, but nobody at that kibbutz who resided at kibbutz died. So you can see the bravery of these young boys and what they did, and now obviously what's left. You saw on the video also. We went after that to kibbutz Shfayim, and there were 400 evacuees there from Kfar Aza, and I'm sure many of you had followed the massive tragedies that occurred at Kfar Aza, where 70 people died. It was over 400, in fact, displaced people from the south at Shfayim. And you saw on the video David Koshitsky, another colleague from Canada and board member, looking at a chart of 11 funerals that day. There were 12 the day before. And we went there for the purposes of meeting Ofer Baram. Ofer lost his son Aviv, Zichron Lavracha, and Ofer himself has been a worker for the Jewish Agency and Victims of Terror for a long time. He's well known to anybody that's been on KH visits to Israel, and sadly now he's a victim of terror. You saw on the video also that the displaced Ethiopians, some of them have been here only months, from the absorption center in Eshkol. But of course, they can't be in Eshkol anymore. Many of these absorption centers are old. They're not strong enough to withstand rocket attacks, and so all of those people are now in Netanya. They're actually at the Park Hotel, and if anybody knows about the Park Hotel is where a horrible terrorist attack occurred, where a family was murdered during Pesach in 2002, during the Intifada, and where they're seeing displaced Ethiopians. They've been displaced once, they're displaced again. From there, we went to probably, you saw in the video, we went to a Shiva house of 3 families, and I might ask you to put, Carly, the pictures up now. You saw in the video, but I'll just give you a sense of I might just keep the pictures up for a moment. You can see the sense of sadness on us listening to the stories of three really beautiful boys, Adir, Matan, and Eli. Two of the boys were born on the same. These were best friends, three best friends. Two of the boys were born on the same day, and of course they passed on the same day. And if I can ask you to go to the next photo, please, Carly. These are the three beautiful boys. They could be any of our sons. Please, for the next photo. Clearly, you can see mother in distress. That's a grandmother standing behind. The girl on the left, her name is Yuli. Yuli is the girlfriend of Adir, and we'd almost finished the shiva visit, and she sort of screamed out at us and said, "You can't leave now. I need to tell you about the boys." And she then told us the story of how they died. The three boys and Yuli, and I'll show you another photo in a minute of another girl, and a number of boys and girls were together at, of course, they're at the music festival where hundreds of kids were slaughtered. And she told the story. These were soldiers, but they were not on duty, and they didn't have any weapons with them. They were at a music fest, and they were hiding in some sort of shelter. And the boys just decided they got to do something to save the girls, and they had no weapons, and they knew the terrorists were outside, and they opened the door, ran out, and the three then locked and shut the door, made the girls lock the door, and then the three boys were slaughtered instantly. And of course, Yuli heard that and saw that, and she had to tell us about the bravery of the boys. If you could go to the next photo, please. This is on the girl second, the young girl. That's the parents of Matan in the middle there, and you can see she's holding her son's hand. But the girl on the left of the father, or on the right of the father in the photo, probably on the left on the video, is one of the other girlfriends, and she actually couldn't speak and open her mouth. On the left of that is the mother, and just slightly out of the shot is the father of Eli. And they didn't speak to us, but a friend of the family told us a story about the father. That as soon as they heard about these issues, I think you can. I don't think there's another photo. So yeah, the father of Eli found out that the boys were in trouble, but he didn't know that they had passed. He got in his car and drove down there in the midst of course, all the terror events are going on. And by the time he got there, he saw the three boys, including his son, who were not alive anymore. But there were obviously lots of injured kids who were shot. And he managed to get 8 of them somehow in his vehicle and drive up. I think he drove to Barzilai Hospital. And so in the face of, he had to leave his dead son and take 8 to injured. And what a hero and unbelievably brave and stoic human beings we're talking about. I've never met stronger people than what I saw. We went from there to, you saw on the video, a massive funeral of Ophir Lipstein. He was the head of the Shah HaNegev Regional Council. I think you're aware that he was the first person that was announced dead. And we heard very clearly how he passed bravely with his weapon. And his son, Nitzan, was missing. At the time of the funeral, his son was missing, and they were praying for his survival. Since then, it was confirmed that he had passed, and he's now buried next to his father. So a mother buries her husband and her son all within 2 days. At that funeral, there were thousands of people there, big screens because there were so many people there. And President Herzog spoke, Benny Gantz spoke, and Miriam Peretz spoke. And I'm sure all of you know who Miriam Peretz is. Nobody needs to tell her about loss of children. They didn't speak as dignitaries. They spoke as friends. And it was the most powerful thing to see. You saw the next day we went to Barzilai Hospital. This hospital itself was hit, I think, 3 times by rockets. Whilst we were there in that casualty area, you saw Sam talking about 80 vehicles within the ambulances, etc. very quickly. You probably all saw this image because it was glued to the TV of CNN and I-24, and you would have seen many family members on the phone not knowing about their kids. It's an incredibly a rocket went off as we were there, and we just sort of had to run inside. You're 7 miles here from Gaza border. That hospital serves a population around 500,000 people. It's unbelievably impressive, from the facilities to the doctors to the nurses. Any of us, would be proud if those were in Sydney or Melbourne or Perth or whatever. Much of the hospital actually exists underground, and with 1.5 hours, they can move the entire hospital, every patient, every piece of equipment, medicines, etc., underground, and they had to do that. In the first few hours, there were only civilian casualties, obviously, and then later on, obviously, combined with military casualties as well. We saw a patient there who had survived nearly passing, a very, very brave young intelligence officer who was actually driving in the morning. He heard the sirens. He pulled up next to one of the mobile shelters on the road, but then he thought he was hiding from rockets, but then of course he heard massive gunfire, and he had his pistol with him, and he went to the nearest police station, actually in Sderot. There were 6 policemen there, and they had weapons, and then I think you're aware of the siege of Sderot and the police station that took place on that day. He was hit twice. He went through 3 operations, and he survived, but sadly most of the policemen there did not survive. We went from there to Hof Eshkol, where we met, and I'll introduce Michal in a moment, where we met Michal and 4 other regional heads and of the local municipalities. Every one of those people told us a story that, it's that area that was hit terribly. It's that area where everybody knows the people who passed, everybody knows the people who are hostages, and knows the people who are injured. And to see there was 4 men and Michal. One of the councilmen was Yossi Keren. Yossi was there as acting mayor because Ophir Lipstein had passed, and Yossi was there. And we heard these unbelievable stories. It was so moving to hear people on the ground telling us about this, what had occurred, but also what is required. And you heard impassionate pleas, almost begging, from stoic, hard men. All of them, by the way, had M16 rifles with them. There's not a person that's not armed there. There is no differentiation between civil and military society down there because of the risk. One of them told us that he can't shed a tear because there's nothing left in them. They're trying to focus on their tasks, but remember, their families are all up north somewhere or in the center of the country because there's nobody left there for obvious reasons. This was a very distressing experience, but I think one that hit home for me. And I met Michal in person, and we hugged together, as did everybody. And I think it probably only happens with our people, where you meet people you've never met before, but you can share their pain and you can share what they're going through as if it's your family or your own friends who you've known forever. And I was very moved by what Michal said and others there. And for that reason, I asked Michal, because I can't do it justice. So I asked Michal to join us. Before I ask Michal in a moment, I just want to tell you this unbelievable story of a brave man called Amnon. Amnon was the head of security. He's just a resident, but he was the head of security of one of the kibbutzim, and he was about to go on a bike ride with his friends up to Jerusalem, and he was 5 minutes late. And because he was 5 minutes late, he heard these ultralight. We've obviously seen the terrorists coming in ultralight. He heard this ultralight aircraft, and he knew that these must be terrorists because ultralights are not allowed there because of the sensitivity. So they all go back. They go back to their homes. They get their weapons. And he told the most harrowing stories. They killed many, many, many terrorists, protected many people, but many people died. And he told us such sad stories that after all the terrorists were dead, there were many, many, many horrific scenes there of people in the kibbutz who had been butchered by the terrorists. And they decided, until the military came, they decided to take all of the dead bodies and hide them from the women and children that were hiding in the bunker, in the shelters, because they didn't want their children and wives to see the horrific remnants of the barbaric attacks that had taken place. There's some of I'll probably pause there for a moment. I just want to pay enormous tribute to the staff of Keren HaYesod. Sam, the chairman, Edna, who you saw in the video, the chief executive, she's got 2 boys down south right now. Sam, whilst he's trying to chair Keren HaYesod, I speak to him every day, morning, night, morning, night, morning, night. He is what's called a reserve casualty officer. The role of casualty officer is when the military turns up to a home and they tell the family that their son or daughter has passed. It's the most horrific job. Very special human beings do this. Sam sadly had to do this 5 times through that. And Edna, Shlomo, the CFO, we got together at the end as a team, and we heard the stories of the Keren HaYesod staff. Each one of them are trying to do their job in the face of everything that I've just told you. And of course, we had the privilege of praying at the Kotel at the end. I'm going to pause there because I can go on for a long time, and I'm very conscious of time. I want to introduce Michal now, Uziyahu. You can see her on the screen. You'll recognize her from the video, who is in a leadership position in the Eshkol Regional Council. And Michal, I might hand it over to you because I'm struggling to go on, but please, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. And toda rabba to everyone who chose to join this important gathering. I will say it several times. The bottom line is that the beyachad, the togetherness, knowing that we are not alone, is one of the most important things. So a little bit about myself. Michal, mother of Ofri, Ron, and Shira, 3 adorable kids. Live in Eshkol Regional Council. Eshkol is a beautiful regional council, farmlands, 32 communities. I'm sorry. Along the Israeli border with Egypt and Gaza. Out of 65 kilometers of border with Gaza, Eshkol shares 40 kilometers. And before I will get into the massacre that we had to go through and the fact that we are survivors today, I want to share with you the narrative of our amazing community. This community that for 20 years lived under this emergency routine, always. This was part of our life. And I can't say that we accepted it, but we lived side by side to it. This is life. Emergency routine means that life is not routine like in Australia, and it's not always emergency. It can be sometimes several rockets, it can be infiltration, it can be balloons and kites with explosive, but life moves on. And we always said in our communities, our goal is to thrive and to bring more people to live in our communities. Eshkol is not a territory in dispute. Eshkol is 9048 borders of Israel. And these proud communities we are managing to grow. And the narrative is that life on the border with Gaza is 95% heaven and 5% hell. and we focus on the 95%, because if we will focus on the 5%, it will become 100%. It will become all-consuming. So we always struggle and do our best to focus on the good sides of life, on the togetherness, on our communities, on our children, on education, on economy, on rebuilding and thriving day by day. These are amazing, proud, capable communities. People that are aspiring for peace. Ophir Lipstein, the mayor of Sha'ar HaNegev that was murdered, is a guy that was working day by day to better the life of the Palestinian people in Gaza. He was planning for an industrial area that will better the quality of their life. The people of Eshkol are people that would even volunteer to bring sick children from Gaza to Israeli hospital. You need to understand that this is the day-to-day life in Eshkol. Peace lovers. But on October 7th, the skies fell on us. 6:30 a.m. Massive explosions all over. And by the drill, we are running to the shelter. And for hours, after hour and another hour, we hear how they are massacring our people. Our men were fighting bravely to defend our communities, but the IDF didn't manage to get there. And suddenly we see captured children and mothers and elderly people that are being taken to Gaza. And we hear how they are massacring, raping, burning alive our people, beheading babies' children, babies' head. It's something that we cannot imagine ever that will ever happen in our lives. And suddenly we need to grow. We need to mourn and we need to grow. And how can we even understand how can we grow out of it? We became survivors. And I want to share with you so much, but just in a few words about dear people that right now we lost. Ayelet Godard, that was an amazing educator. I can tell you about Liam, 18 years old, that right now is in Gaza, captured, a child. I can tell you about Amit Gabay, that was murdered in his bed. I can tell you about hundreds of people that we know personally. We're talking about a massacre and cruelty that we have never seen, and you said it before, since ISIS or since the Holocaust. And I know that you see me teared, and you see the tears, and I admit they crushed our hearts. We are heartbroken, but I want you to remember that we are also strong. Maybe they crushed our houses. They killed many of us. They kidnapped many, many of our people. In my community, we have 174 people that we already know that were murdered. We have 120 people from my community that are right now either in Gaza or dead, and we are not aware of it. But they did not kill our spirit. Our spirit is strong. It's just like we are saying in the Israeli national anthem, hope is 2,000 years old. They did not kill the spirit, and they will not kill hope. We will rebuild ourselves. The best way to answer this cruelty, and I just want to share with you, my dad always said, cruelty is not only a sin, cruelty is the punishment too. On October 7th, beside massacring our community, they showed their real faces to the world. The face of Hamas, the face of people that has no moral codes. And as the amazing Congresswoman, the Australian one said, warriors, combatants, soldiers do not murder children and women. Soldiers do not rape and burn people alive. The Hamas showed their real face to the world, but let's not mistake here. There are 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza, and they support Hamas right now. By not standing against them, by not opposing and saying this is unacceptable, by not creating a revolution and allowing the Hamas and celebrating with the Hamas, they are responsible, just like the Hamas, for the massacre of October 7. And I wish, if there is one message that I want to deliver to the people of Gaza, stop being a victim. It's your responsibility. And if you are allowing your leadership to be so cruel and vicious with black souls, this is something that you need to take the credit for. This is your responsibility. And if you want better life, stand against it, rebel, uprise against this administration. On the other side of the border, we will mourn, we are grieving, but we will rebuild. The only answer to terror is that our communities will rehabilitate themselves. Eshkol is the test. We will be tested by the rehabilitation of Eshkol and the Gaza envelope. We will rebuild our homes. We will rehabilitate our communities. We will invest in education, in economic anchors. How can we do it? We will do it because we just don't have any other option. Yes, it's hard, but we will stand again. We are already doing it, and we are not alone. We know that when we look back and to the sides, we have you right next to us. Jewish community around the world, Christians that are good friends, and non-Jewish and just friends of Israel around the world, that holds good neshama, in good spirit, not to hate, just to rebuild. They will have to deal with themselves. We will do everything that we can do to bring our people back home, and we will invest in the future together. I want to end my remarks now with saying that many people are asking me, how can you grow out of it? Isn't it like desperate situation? There is no hope. And I'm saying, as I said before, we have hope. Hope is where we look on our young children. When I look on my boys, 17 years old, and they're saying to me that they are going back to Eshkol and they will take part in the rehabilitation, this is hope. To see this young generation so committed, and they are going to funerals every day, but still committed. When I see you guys, when I'm being invited to Zoom in with the Australian community, this is hope. When I see that there are Christian friends in the chats here that are saying, we are with Israel, this is hope. Hope is not to go to hate the other side. They will pay. And as we always say, Dir Balak, they will bring our people back home. And they will have to deal with the consequences of their actions. We will, here in Israel, committed to stay here, to thrive, to grow a new generation. It will take time, but we are committed to do everything. Eshkol is the test. We will be tested, because next thing, if Eshkol won't rehabilitate itself, if the Gaza envelope won't rehabilitate itself, the next thing is Jerusalem, and the next thing is the Western world. So we should stand united against terror. We won't let these dark forces bring darkness into our life. The answer to this darkness is to light a candle and another candle and a torch. And soon, I know that in Australia it's different, but soon Hanukkah is coming, and we will show them that we are the people of light. How can we do it from this crisis, from this devastation, together, yachad? So thank you, Keren HaYesod, for being yachad with us. Thank you, Australia, for all of your support. We're greatly appreciating it. Toda rabba.
Thank you, Michal, for those incredibly, incredibly powerful words, and really for you to be thinking so coherently and to be putting it across so eloquently in these times is just absolutely remarkable. And the irony is that you give us strength and hope from your situation as well, and really we're deeply grateful for that. The amazing messages in chat, and we'll capture those to send to you so that you can share them with your friends and family, because I think it's important that they feel it as well. We've got questions. If there are any questions, please pop them in Q&A, and we'll try and get to them as many as we can, as Stephen said. The first one, I think, is to both of you. UIA is the local arm of Keren HaYesod. That's what we do. UIA is the local arm of the Israeli fundraising mechanism. Our job in good and bad times is to look at the holistic situation in Israel. We fundraise for dozens of causes throughout the year. That's what we do, and we're very proud of it. So Steve, maybe to you first briefly, in terms of the needs and what you're seeing coming through in the leadership, and then to you, Michal, the needs that you've got at the moment from us in the diaspora. Where are our priorities, and what do we need to look at?
Thanks, Yair, but I have to thank Michal first. I don't think you're the only one crying with tears, Michal, here. We shared tears together a couple of weeks ago. It's not even that long ago, by the way. It's 1 week ago. It's 1 week ago we were together. It's very powerful to have you with us. I guess I'm going to tell you, Michal, of the power of the Australian Jewish community. We are incredibly fortunate. We are blessed. We are small, but we are powerful. We are Zionistic. We are united. And we haven't forgotten here the Holocaust and we have a very, very generous community. Keren HaYesod United Israel Appeal in Australia is one of the leading campaigns in all of the diaspora. And we have a very generous community. And I can share with you that the outpouring of support, both financial and emotional, has been staggeringly impressive in its generosity and love and care for the state of Israel. I also want to mention that we have a lot of Australians with sons and daughters in the IDF right now, and we pray for them just as we pray for Israelis with sons and daughters there. And you can see the immense unity between the Jewish community of Australia and Israel. I'm very proud of the United Israel Appeal team. I'm very proud of our community. To answer your question, Yair, UIA is part of Keren HaYesod, which is part of the Jewish Agency, which is working together with the Jewish Agency and the Jewish Federations of North America in a collective. The collective is highly governed, well led, and to give you a sense of how it works, we came together. I was in the United States. I woke up in the morning, and 3 hours later, we have the entire leadership of Jewish Agency, Keren HaYesod, and Jewish Federation of America together working. We have met almost every day since then. We have a very clear understanding and focus for the immediate needs, which in the first instance are for the victims of terror. Thousands and thousands of families have already received funds from Keren HaYesod and the Americans to Jewish Agency too. And I'm sure, Michal, you know many, many families that have already received the support. The regional councils have already received support, and the hospitals have already received support. The support given immediately to relocate the 100,000 odd Israelis out of harm's way from the north and the south into the center of the country is already occurred. So I think there are short-term needs that are very clearly identified. And in terms of fundraising, Karen Hayasod actually had an emergency board meeting at Barzilai Hospital last Thursday. We pledged to raise $100 million US, and I'm very proud that we're well over $70 million so far. The US, the US jury have pledged over $500 million US, and much of that has already been pledged. And so the combination of that coming together and working through organizations like the Jewish Agency, which have a clear understanding of the immediate needs, which are, as I've outlined, particularly for victims of terror and those that have been relocated, to the longer term needs of all the areas, whether it's the absorption centers or the Amigur centers for older age people, or the youth villages. All of these have been impacted. But in the longer term, we will need to assist areas like the south, and please God, it's not the north and other parts of Israel in the coming days and months. But there's a clarity of a well-governed organization that knows exactly where the needs are, and I'm very confident that those needs are being adhered to in with the highest levels of governance possible. Maybe Michal, I'll give you the floor of how you see the longer term requirements in the south.
Thank you, Stephen. As someone, as I shared before, we are coming from such a proud communities. To ask for help is something that is really tough for us, because one of the things that we are concerned the most is not to become welfare communities. We just need you to help us to, as I said to Stephen when he visited Israel, don't do it for us, do it with us. We have to ensure that our communities continue to hold the sense of capability, that we can do it, that no one is doing it for us. If we will give up taking leadership and we will suck into victimhood and feeling sorry for ourselves, and as we should, we're grieving, it's fine. All of us are mourning right now, but still we have to remind ourselves that we are capable. When people ask me, what do you need? And I said it also in the video, we don't know yet. We know some, but there are so many aspects of life that right now we need help. Helping victims of terror is one, but if we want these communities to come back, we have to help to bring them together, to overcome this horrific tragedy together. We have needs in terms of equipping kindergartens and schools that we are relocating right now in different locations. We have Eshkol is 17,000 residents. 15,000 are all over Israel right now, most of them in Eilat and the Dead Sea and around Jerusalem, some of them in the Arava Valley and Ramat Negev. So we are trying now to bring back the routine as much as we can create routine in this madness, so people won't lose their basic skills. We need to bring back educational systems, kindergarten, as I said, and classroom. We need to equip it. We need it strongly. We need to start to rebuild the resilience centers, the places that gives therapy. Till now, it was mostly volunteers. In order to bring therapists from all over Israel to Eilat and the Dead Sea, we need resources. We need to help elderly people. Many of them that had to relocate are experiencing cognitive drop. How do you say it? Decline. Cognitive decline. Yeah. Because suddenly they are in a hotel and they're not used to this situation, and their children, my generation that usually takes care of them, is not available for them right now. We are in our own crisis and with our children. We see a lot of behavior at risk among teenagers that are, to see 14 years old kids in funerals of their classmates. We have a high school that had more than 30 of its children murdered, and teachers, and some are captured in Gaza. So these systems, in order to rebuild, we need the resources. But for the middle term, we also need already to aim for getting out of the hotels, and even if it's temporary, to bring the communities back into essential life. Right now in the hotels, we get a breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's not a good situation. We need to go back to cook our own food. We need to bring people, small and medium-sized businesses, back to track as much as we can. It's in all aspects of life, and I know that Keren HaYesod knows how to do it. And as Stephen said, we also need to think about the long term. And in order to rehabilitate our communities to the long term, we need also to create economic anchors, so we won't rely for our entire life on support and philanthropy. We need to make sure that our communities are resilient and strong and proud, and as I said, capable.
Yeah, here I saw sort of firsthand the relationships between the leadership of Keren HaYesod and the leadership of the regional councils, and also with the Jewish Agency. I'm entirely confident that the network and the relationships and the governance is in place to properly deal with these short and longer term situations. I hope that gives you a feel for that.
Then questions come in, which is kind of take a different view to the actual needs. But and again, Michal, also feel free to answer. I know you spent time in the US for many years, and you've been connected to global Jewry. And Steve, obviously, you're at the center of it. In terms of the Jewish world's relationship with Israel, and the way that we should be responding to this, and the way that we see our relationship with Israel, is there a shift? Have we seen a shift in what's happened with our younger generation, where things have come from, where things are going to, and really, it's early days, but are you already feeling, Michal and Stephen, this difference in the reaction of the Jewish communities in the diaspora to Israel in terms of some of the tensions that have been there for a decade or more?
Michal?
Yes. First of all, I have to say that since the massacre, I do not watch media at all. It's just too hard, because I don't need to see the story. I am the story. So I don't see the response, but I see, the fact that Stephen and the leadership there came to Israel so quick, and to see how generous everyone, to see the campaign in the United States, to see the campaign in Australia, in Latin America. I think in a way, the narrative that all of us, the world Jewry, the narrative that we have created of equal sides and responsibility for both sides, this tension that was a little bit creating fractions in our relationship, and the issues and the criticism that we have, you have, and also in Israel. I always say that the country that criticizes Israel the most is Israel. So when we have issues with the leadership in Israel, when we feel uncomfortable with some of the decision making, it brought a lot of sensitivity into the relationship between the American Jews and the world Jews and the Western world in Israel. And yet, I think I always said that I'm not going to apologize for not being a victim. I demand my government to do everything that they can possibly do to defend me. And to see these pictures, and now everyone understands that the other side is not naive at all, that the other side is vicious, cruel. And then to see that after 48 hours, I don't remember which one of you mentioned it, I think it was Stephen. After 48 hours, suddenly they're trying to say, oh, it's just the Hamas, it's not the rest of them. So I don't know where the world Jewry point of view is there, but I do feel I do feel that this massacre changed the rules of the game on also in terms of the relationship. And it's hard to say, but a crisis, it's an opportunity to grow. So I guess this crisis is also an opportunity to grow also after a decade that we are struggling in our relationship. And it's heartwarming, all the emails and the support that I see from friends around the world, Jews and non-Jews. So I'm grateful. And
Thank you.
I'm speaking with Australian right now, more than 600, so it means a lot.
I sort of see this as a massive paradigm shift and a seismic change. Why do I say that? I see this as a historic event. Many of us here are still touched by the Holocaust, but it's now a long time ago. And I think what many Jewish communities around the world have been thinking, and particularly I would say the next generation from my generation, is that, well, I don't really need to support Israel. Israel's strong. Its military is strong. It's economically strong. It can look after itself. Israel doesn't really need me anymore. And I see that this has changed all of that. I think for the first time since pre-48, and certainly the Holocaust, there was an existential event within Israel, particularly in 73. But now we're seeing one around the world. And, I think you'll find this hard to imagine, and Michal will find this hard to imagine, but I'm more concerned in Sydney than I was in the kibbutz 2 kilometers from Gaza, because we've seen a shift in anti-Semitism, we've seen media issues, and I think suddenly we shouldn't be so comfortable, and the next generation is seeing that for the first time. Is it possible that Israel is under serious threat? Is it possible that my community is suddenly under serious threat? Well, the answer is yes. And this is, I think, the first time we've experienced that in our lifetimes. And so, yes, I think there has been a massive shift. And there will be, from an exceptionally sad and horrific event, I'm sure the Jewish world will become a lot stronger from it.
Good. I'm noting the time, and I know that, Michal, you also have a lot to get done. So I'll just say there are a lot of questions about how people can help practically as well as financially. And I can assure you that, please watch UIA. You've seen we've started to come up with a number of ways that people can help other than financially. And at the moment, in the short term, obviously the finances is all we can do. As Michal says, they don't know yet what's going to be needed, but we are the best conduit to be able to get to you. When we do need volunteers to come and help rebuild, we will let you know. And when it's ready and time for people to help in whatever way we can, we will be that address. So I'll ask people just to stick with us. We're not avoiding the question. As Michal said, we don't know yet what's needed, and we'll get that to you as soon as we can. And I think maybe just closing comments from you first, Stephen, and we'll leave the last word to Michal. But, before we leave the probably, well over 1,000 people that are online tonight, closing comments before we play Hatikva to close the evening. So Stephen, you, and then we'll leave the last word to Michal.
I probably would have done it the other way around, to be ladies first, but I actually want you to go first, Michal. I think I've got to change that.
Okay.
So beside really helping us financially, which we just need it, I'm sorry, we need your support. Please also help us by speaking with the public officials, with legislators, with people from the intelligence community, and do everything that you can possibly do to bring our people back home. This is the biggest goal for us, just to have them back home safely, and to see how we can move on. I'm sure that they went through horrific moments, and with the trauma, and we together, beyachad, we will grow out of it. Thank you for the wonderful notes that you are writing in the chats. I'm trying to follow most of them. And the most important thing for me to say, in resiliency, the Resilience Center taught us for so many years how to deal with this ongoing emergency routine. The two most important key elements is, first of all, to know that we are capable people, as I said before. And the second is the sense of belonging, beyachad. And as I said, let's just remember, we will grow out of this crisis, but we can do it in the best way we can if we are beyachad, together as friends, Jewish community around the world, friends of Israel around the world, that Jews and non-Jews, we will grow out of this crisis. Why? Because we don't have any other choice, and because we are beyachad. Toda.
Thank you, Michal. There's not much more for me to conclude, other than to thank you enormously. I want to thank our beautiful Australian Jewish community, Zionistic, strong, united. We need to continue to invest in our own communities and the strength of our own communities, in Jewish education, in advocacy, in security, and all of the important elements that make our community strong. And of course, at this moment in time, there is no doubt that we have to prioritize also Israel. And there are immediate needs. And I think that we can be very proud of the generosity of our community. Those funds are already being felt. It's not going through some bureaucracy. It's taking a long time. The needs are already being dealt with. I've seen it firsthand. And I'm confident that we are set up to be able to deal with the short-term needs as now, and to work with the municipalities in what will be required in the future. It was really a privilege. I've been thanked a lot for going to Israel from the Israelis and from Australians. I don't see it like that. I don't really want to be thanked for that. I gained a lot more from that as a person, and also the ability, the goal of communicating this to not just the Australian Jewish community that we're talking to today, but I'm proud of Karen Hayesod as a global organization in 45 countries and 60 campaigns. Just maybe half an hour ago, I was in contact with my colleague Rafi Nasser, the chairman of the Sao Paulo campaign, and a fellow board member. And what we're doing here, he did exactly in his evening in Sao Paulo. And I can assure you this is going on all over the world. So we should be proud to be united as diaspora Jewry, and proud to be united with Israel at this most horrific moment. And as I said to you, Michal, you are not alone. We are together, and we will help rebuild Israel in partnership with you. Because your strength, we all gain enormous strength from you and your colleagues who live there and have suffered. But I saw the strength. I saw not only the tears, I also saw the strength and character of you and your colleagues, and I have no doubt that that will occur, and we will win, and we will grow, and we will be strong, and we'll be proud together. So thank you, Michal. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Yair. And thank you to everybody here, and those who are standing with Israel. We will always be together. So thank you.
Thank you, everybody. We'll finish with the Hatikva now, and after that, we'll pop up the slides again. A few people have asked where they can donate or send videos that we can send to Michal and her friends and family and support. So we've got some QR codes. So after Hatikva, there'll be the QR codes on the screen as well. So thank you very much, everybody, and we'll close the evening with Hatikva. God bless everybody and stay safe.
יהודי או מי אליי, הבנתי שזה כבר נגמר, ביי ביי, סגרנו וזה לא עבר, את עוד זורמת לי בתוך הדם, אני שחררתי אותך, אבל אם העולם ייגמר, את תבואי אליי, את תבואי אליי, אם הבדידות תישאר, תחזרי אולי, תחזרי אליי. איך העולם התהפך, ואוהבת הפך לדלך, לא ספרת אותי, כשהמשכת ממני סגרתי את הלב בפנים, אני אפס שלא חיים, כשהלכת לי, לקחת אותי ממני.
למדתי איך לחשוב עלייך בלי לכאוב, אין תרופה לזמן שלימד אותי, אמרת שבקרוב יהיה לנו אותו, כל אחד לבד, אותך כלום לא יחזיר אליי, די, הבנתי שזה כבר נגמר, ביי ביי, סגרנו וזה לא עבר, את עוד זורמת לי בתוך הדם, אני שחררתי אותה, אבל אם העולם ייגמר, את תבואי אליי, את תבואי אליי, אם הבדידות תישאר, תחזרי אולי, תחזרי אליי. איך העולם מתהפך, ואוהבת הפך לדלך, לא ספרת אותי, כשהמשכת ממני סגרתי את הלב בפנים, אני אפס שלא חיים, כשהלכת לי, לקחת אותי ממני. אני שחררתי אותך, אבל
אם העולם ייגמר, תבוא אליי, תבוא אליי, אם הבדידות תישאר, תחזור אולי, תחזור אליי.
איך העולם מתהפך, ואוהבת הפך לדלך, לא ספרת אותי, כשהמשכת ממני סגרתי את הלב בפנים, אני אפס שלא חיים, כשהלכת לי, לקחת אותי ממני.